It says I'm streaming here. Bet you I'm streaming right now and it just isn't telling me. It says that I'm live. Oh, there we go. Okay, I am actually live. Beautiful. All right, let's see. Looks like I've got input coming in. That is in fact in my scene, so I should be outputting audio. I just don't do YouTube very often. All right, well, we're in here either way. My name is Brooke. Hi. I got graduated from voice training, but I don't feel like my voice is exactly where I want it to be. Good. My keyboard's very important. Yeah, so I just thought, how do I improve? And the only way I know how to improve things like that is through like instruments in my guitar. So I figured set aside 20 minutes a day to do it. And I was just gonna read a book. I figured if I'm reading a book, we can all read a book. We can discuss the books. We all like books. Now, the book I chose, because I have a hard time choosing and I happen to have Kindle Unlimited, so Kindle Unlimited was an important factor in my decision making, was the Handmaid's Tale books. One, because I can read it for free. Two, because I have not watched that television show and it's supposed to be good, or read the book. And so I am going to start there. How so? How so in my voice training? So my main issue is I have a hard time being consistent, and that's just time. And when I play, there's been one video I've taken where I've played my own voice back, and I didn't hate it. And that was, like a lot of things I realized later, something that other people could experience. That hating your voice wasn't just something that everybody did all the time in every situation. I've been learning that about a lot of stuff. So, as I understand it from my voice coaching and from the YouTube channels that we all watch, a large part of vocal feminization is we want to raise our resonance, we want to lower our vocal weight, and I feel like I have the tools to do those things specifically, but I don't really have an end goal. I don't have a voice that I like, that I want. I want to maintain this voice. I don't have that. As for instance, let's say in some crazy hypothetical that this was the voice that you were trying to coach yourself out of. And I can take this voice and I can remove the weight and then I can raise the resonance. And I should get, even though the pitch will be the same and the mannerisms and intonation, everything will be the same, it should be a more feminized version. Let's see if we can do that. First, I'm going to do it one at a time. First, I'm going to lower the weight, then raise the resonance, which I have a harder time with. So let's try. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. That puts me somewhere around where I was, I think. It's a little bit it's a little bit more weight in there. I put back up when I was trying to raise the resonance. I have a little bit easier time the other way, so let's try. It would be back to bass. So it would be I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Which ends up being about where I am, but this isn't where I want to be. I mean, and I can raise my pitch, so I can talk up here, but it doesn't sound natural. It doesn't sound great. I don't know exactly why that is or what it is that I need to change. So I'm going to just try speaking for 20 minutes a day, reading books, till either one starts feeling more natural or two people can tell me where they think I can improve. So let's move on. Today, my little tablet has not charged very well, so I'm going to be reading it directly off of the computer screen, which isn't ideal, but is the way the cookies crumble in today. Okay. Settling in. We slept in what once had been the gymnasium, the floor of the varnished wood with stripes and circles painted on it for the games that were formerly played there. The hoops for the basketball nets were still in place, though the nets were gone. A balcony ran around the room for the spectators, and I thought I could smell, faintly, like an after-image, the pungent scent of sweat, shot through with the sweet taint of chewing gum and perfume from the watching girls, felt skirted as I knew from pictures, later in miniskirts, then pants, then in one earring spiky green-streaked hair. Dances would have been held there. The music lingered. A palimpsest, I've never seen that word before, of unheard sound, style upon style, an undercurrent of drums, a forlorn wail, garlands made of tissue paper flower, cardboard devils, a revolving ball of mirrors, powdering the dancers with a snow of light. There was old sex in the room and loneliness, and expectation of something without a shape or name. I remember that yearning for something that was always about to happen and was never the same as the hands that were on us there and then, in the small of the back, or out back in the parking lot, or in the television room with the sound turned down and only the pictures flickering over lifting flesh. We yearned for the future. How did we learn it? That talent for insatiability. It was in the air, and it was still in the air, an afterthought, as we tried to sleep, in the army cots that had been set up in the rows, with spaces between so we could not talk. We had flannelette sheets, like children's, and army-issue blankets, old ones that still said U.S. We folded our clothes neatly and laid them on the stools at the end of the beds. The lights were turned down, but not out. Aunt Sarah and Aunt Elizabeth patrolled. They had electric cattle prods slung on thongs from their leather belts. Now I've been zapped with those electric cattle prods, and they are not super fun. No guns, though. Even though they could be trusted, even they could not be trusted with guns. Guns were for the guards, specially picked from the angels. The guards weren't allowed inside the building except when called, and we weren't allowed out except for our walks, twice daily, 2 by 2 around the football field, which was enclosed now by a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. The angels stood outside it with their backs to us. They were objects of fear to us, but of something else as well. If only they would look. If only we could talk to them. Something could be exchanged, we thought. Some deal made, some trade-off. We still had our bodies. That was our fantasy. We learned to whisper almost without sound. In the semi-darkness, we could stretch out our arms when the ants weren't looking and touch each other's hands across space. We learned to lip read, our heads flat on the beds, turned sideways, watching each other's mouths. In this way, we exchanged names from bed to bed. Alma, Janine, Dolores, Moira, June. I feel like this is the third book recently I've read that had a character named Moira in it. I've never met a single Moira. Chapter 2, Shopping. I do have a tendency to hold my breath. A chair, a table, a lamp. Above, on the white ceiling, a relief ornament in the shape of a wreath. In the center of it, a blank space, plastered over, like the place in a face where the eye has been taken out. There must have been a chandelier once. They've removed anything you could tie a rope to. A window, two white curtains. Under the window, a window seat with a little cushion. When the window is partly open, it only opens partly. The air can come in. When the window is partly open, it only opens partly. The air can come in and make the curtains move. I can sit in the chair or on the window seat, hands folded, and watch this. Sunlight comes in through the window too and falls on the floor, which is made of wood, in narrow strips highly polished. I can smell the polish. There's a rug on the floor, oval, of braided rags. This is the kind of touch they like, folk art, archaic, made by women in their spare time from things that have no further use. A return to traditional values, waste not, want not. I am not being wasted. Why do I want? On the wall above the chair, a picture, framed but with no glass, a print of flowers, blue irises, watercolor. Flowers are still allowed. Does each of us have the same print, the same chair, the same white curtains, I wonder? Government issue? Think of it as being in the army, said Aunt Lydia. A bed, single, mattress, medium hard, covered with a flocked white spread. Nothing takes place in the bed but sleep, or no sleep. I try not to think too much. Like other things now, thought must be rationed. There's a lot that doesn't bear thinking about. Thinking can hurt your chances, and I intend to last. I know why there is no glass in front of the watercolor picture of blue irises, and why the window opens only partly, and why the glass in it is shatterproof. It isn't running away they're afraid of. We wouldn't get far. It's those other escapes, the ones you can open in yourself, given a cutting edge. Getting pretty dark pretty fast. So, apart from these details, this could be a college guest room for the less distinguished visitors, or a room in a rooming house of former times for ladies in reduced circumstances. That is what we are now. The circumstances have been reduced, for those of us who still have circumstances. But a chair, sunlight, flowers, these are not to be dismissed. I am alive. I live. I breathe. I put my hand out, unfolded, into the sunlight. Where I am is not a prison but a privilege, as Aunt Lydia said, who was in love with either or. Either or, a prison or a privilege? Is that what Aunt Lydia's in love with? The bell that measures time is ringing. Time here is measured by bells, as once in nunneries. As in a nunnery, too, there are few mirrors. I get up out of the chair, advance my feet into the sunlight, in their red shoes, flat-heeled, to save the spine and not for dancing. The red gloves are lying on the bed. I pick them up, pull them onto my hands, finger by finger. Everything except the wings around my face is red, the color of blood which defines us. The skirt is ankle length, full, gathered to a flat yoke that extends over the breasts. The sleeves are full. The white wings, too, are prescribed issue. They are to keep us from seeing, but also from being seen. I never look good in red. It's not my color. I picked up the shopping basket, put it over my arm. I look fantastic in red. The door of the room, not my room, I refuse to say my, is not locked. In fact, it doesn't shut properly. I go out into the polished hallway, which has a runner down the center, dusty pink. Like a path through the forest, like a carpet for royalty, it shows me the way. The carpet bends and goes down the front staircase, and I go with it, one hand on the banister, once a tree, turned in another century, rubbed to a warm gloss. Late Victorian, the house is, a family house, built for a large, rich family. There's a grandfather clock in the hallway, which doles out time, and then the door to the motherly front sitting room, with its fleshed tones and hints, a sitting room in which I never sit, but stand or kneel only. At the end of the hallway, above the front door, is a fanlight of colored glass, flowers, red and blue. There remains a mirror on the hall wall. If I turn my head so that the white wings framing my face direct my vision towards it, I can see it as I go down the stairs, round, convex, a pier glass, like the eye of a fish, and myself in it like a distorted shadow. A parody of something, some fairy tale figure in a red cloak, descending towards a moment of carelessness that is the same as danger. A sister, dipped in blood. At the bottom of the stairs there's a hat and umbrella stand, the bentwood kind, long rounded rungs of wood curving curving gently up into the hook shaped like the opening fronds of a fern. There are several umbrellas in it, black for the commander, blue for the commander's wife, and the one assigned to me, which is red. I leave the red umbrella where it is, because I know from the window that the day is sunny. I wonder whether or not the commander's wife is in the sitting room. She doesn't always sit. Sometimes I can hear her pacing back and forth, a heavy step and then a light one, and the soft tap of her cane on the dusty rose carpet. I walk along the hallway, past the sitting room door and the door that leads into the dining room, and open the door at the end of the hall and go through into the kitchen. Here the smell is no longer of furniture polish. Rita is in here, standing at the kitchen table, which has a top of chipped white enamel. She's in her usual Martha's dress, which is dull green, like a surgeon's gown of the time before. The dress is much like mine in shape, long and concealing, but with a bib apron over it, and without the white wings and the veil. She puts on the veil to go outside, but nobody much cares who sees the face of a Martha. Her sleeves are rolled to the elbow, showing her brown arms. She's making bread, throwing the loaves for the final brief kneading, and then the shaping. Rita sees me and nods, whether in greeting or in simple acknowledgment of my presence it's hard to say, and wipes her floury hands on her apron and rummages in the kitchen drawer for the token book. The token book? Frowning, she tears out 3 tokens and hands them to me. Her face might be kindly if she would smile, but the frown isn't personal. It's the red dress she disapproves of and what it stands for. She thinks I may be catching, like a disease or any form of bad luck. Sometimes I listen outside closed doors, a thing I never would have done in the time before. I don't listen long, because I don't want to be caught doing it. Once, though, I heard Rita say to Cora that she wouldn't debase herself like that. "Nobody asking you," Cora said. "Anyways, what could you do, supposing?" "Go to the colonies," Rita said. "They have the choice." "With the unwomen, and starve to death, and Lord knows what all," said Cora. "Catch you." They were shelling peas. Even through the almost closed door I could hear the light clink of hard peas falling into the metal bowl. I heard Rita, a grunt or a sigh of protest or agreement. "Anyway, they're doing it for all of us," said Cora, "or so they say. If I hadn't have if I hadn't have gotten my tubes tied, it could have been me. Say I was 10 years younger. It's not that bad. It's not what you'd call hard work." "Better her than me," Rita said, and I opened the door. Their faces were the way women's faces are when they've been talking about you behind your back and they think you've heard. Embarrassed, but also a little defiant, as if it were their right. That day, Cora was more pleasant to me than usual. Rita, more surly. Today, despite Risa's closed face and pressed lips, I would like to stay here in the kitchen. Cora might come in from somewhere else in the house, carrying her bottle of lemon oil and her duster, and Rita would make coffee. In the houses of the commanders, there is still real coffee. And we would sit at Rita's kitchen table, which is not Rita's any more than my table is mine, and we would talk about aches and pains, illnesses, our feet, our backs, all the different kinds of mischief that our bodies, like unruly children, can get into. We would nod our heads as punctuation to each other's voices, signaling that yes, we know all about it. We would exchange remedies and try to outdo each other in the recital of our physical miseries. Gently we would complain, our voices soft and minor key and mournful as pigeons in the eaves troughs. I know what you mean, we'd say, or a quaint expression you sometimes hear still from older people. I hear where you're coming from, as if the voice itself were a traveler arriving from a distant place, which it would be, which it is. How I used to despise such talk, now I long for it. At least it was talk, an exchange of sorts. Or we would gossip. The Marthas know things. They talk among themselves, passing the unofficial news from house to house. Like me, they listen at doors, no doubt, and see things even with their eyes averted. I've heard them at it sometimes, caught whiffs of their private conversations. Stillborn it was, or stabbed her with a knitting needle, right in the belly. Jealousy it might have been, eating her up, or tantalizingly, it was toilet cleaner she used, worked like a charm, though you'd think he'd have tasted it. Must have been that drunk, but they found her out all right. Or I would help Rita make the bread, sinking my hands into that soft, resistant warmth which is so much like flesh. I hunger to touch something, other than cloth or wood. I hunger to commit the act of touch. But even if I were to ask, even if I were to violate decorum to that extent, Rita would not allow it. She would be too afraid. The Marthas are not supposed to fraternize with us. Fraternize means to behave like a brother, Luke told me. He said there was no corresponding word that meant to behave like a sister. Sororize, it would have to be, he said, from the Latin. He liked knowing about such details. The derivations of words, curious usages. I used to tease him about being pedantic. I take the tokens from Rita's outstretched hand. They have pictures on them of the things that can be exchanged for. 12 eggs, a piece of cheese, a brown thing that's supposed to be a steak. I place them in the zippered pocket of my sleeve where I keep my pass. Tell them fresh, for the eggs, she says. Not like last time, in a chicken, tell them, not a hen. Tell them who it's for and they won't mess around. All right, I say. I don't smile. Why tempt her to friendship? I think that's going to be about it for me for reading today. I can already tell my voice is tiring out, so, stamina and endurance, and just got my laser done a few days ago. It's all popping out. Constitution and endurance is definitely some stats that can be improved upon. Fate or destiny. Interesting. But this is I'm going into this totally blind, like I've seen the promos for the show, but I have not listened to anybody talk about it. I've not read it. I haven't seen anything more in depth than that. So I guess we'll continue this tomorrow. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read ahead so that I'll have an idea of what the words are going to sound like before they have to come out of my mouth. And that makes it a lot easier to read stuff aloud. But thank you, Miss Kaylin, and whoever else is viewing. And I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you again tomorrow at probably about the same time. But for now, I got to get some homework done.